What's going on, everybody?
On Dave.
Oh, little chat get together right here, Gators Breakdown Plus, before this massive hurricane comes rolling through Florida.
Yeah, about to say, is everybody batting down the hatches?
Here in Jacksonville, I think we'll be mostly okay. We'll see. Certainly West Florida, Mid Florida. Definitely more worried about that area and those people there. So, but if the further west you are, I hope everybody does what you need to do to stay safe. Certainly in my thoughts, this thing looks like it's going to be pretty bad.
Yeah, it's looks pretty bad. I'm in like the southeast corner of Alabama, so I'm in a hurricane warning, but I'll be on the west side of the storm as long as it stays on the path it's going. So just pretty much just a little bit north of Tallahassee. So.
Okay, yeah, well, yeah, thoughts there as well. Of course, just this thing. Whew, hopefully everybody makes it through okay. But if we can provide a little bit of distraction here, Gators Breakdown Plus chat. I don't really have much planned on the docket with the, as far as pure conversation goes, as far as pure topics or anything. Bye week, they're here for the Gators, of course. We can look back at the Mississippi State game a bit. We can chew on that one for a little bit with the bye week. The second win of the season here for the Gators, sitting at the first bye week at 2-2, not where we certainly wanted to be. Maybe even thought it would be for this Gator team. I think many at worst saw 3-1 here, maybe a 4-0 start, but certainly nowhere near that. 2 blowout wins at home to Miami and Texas A&M, and the win against Samford and Mississippi State on the road. So, topics. Can anything from the Mississippi State game carry over? I think most of us probably agree a lot more to do with the opponent. At least we know we're not as bad as Mississippi State. that would be a hard pill to swallow right now, as bad as that team is. But anything stand out from that game that you want to see, something you didn't see in that game you still want to see Florida work on during the bye week. I shared Billy Napier's SEC teleconference on Wednesday. That's going to be his only media this week. So I got to ask him about the running back rotation a bit and Graham Mertz. He was also asked about tackling and all that. So all that was brought up as well. So anywhere you guys want to take this as well, we can for sure. So.
Hey, Dave, I think the brightest spot for me was watching a wide receiver that couldn't make it on the field before show that he has what it takes to play in the SEC, Aidan Mizell.
Yeah, certainly loved seeing him finally get his chance. Hey, Bull, can you mute when you're not talking? There's a terrible echo, by the way. Sorry. Thank you. But yeah, him getting his chance, I hate, and I know I said it in the podcast, but I'm going to stress again that he didn't have his big play count, his shake and bake and using and seeing his speed out there. I think it was 65-yard touchdown get called back for that phantom penalty on Montreal Johnson, but certainly showed that, he should be on the field more. And look, I said it and I stressed it, and I think even Billy Napier said it in the post game. This is a great chance for this staff to identify who needs to be on the field more. Hopefully, Aidan Mizell is one of them. It was good to see Marcus Burke get the touchdown catch as well. So, somebody needed to step up with Trey Wilson. Now, I thought the wide receiver group as a whole kind of stepped up. The ball was spread around. You saw Badger, you saw DK, you saw Mizell, you saw Burke. All guys really get involved in this passing game. The tight ends as well, with Boardingham and Hanson with touchdowns. So the ball was certainly spread out. And, we'll see what happens when Trey Wilson, when he gets back, when he comes back, how he'll be used. I thought Will did a good job of pointing out the other night, and maybe somewhat of a disappointment for Trey Wilson. Not necessarily on him. The injury part he can't necessarily help, and the staff necessarily not using him a whole lot. Is that more of an indictment on him? But they still goes when he is on the field so many minutes, so many plays where the ball is not in his hands, but even when it is in his hands right now, it's still close to the line of scrimmage. Not much downfield for Trey Wilson. So certainly want to see him on the field more and get a good feel. And look, I still don't know if I trust his staff to know if it's not anything down the field. Is it really Trey Wilson, or is it really just staff just not using him to his full potential? But yeah, I was certainly glad to see Mizell there. I'm glad other receivers stepped up at the same time.
Yeah, it could be a little bit of both on the on Trey, the staff, and maybe he's just he's better at that slot of around the line of scrimmage. I mean,
probably to help.
That's what we've seen so far.
Yeah, and maybe even to help the quarterbacks out a bit too, is keeping him closer to the line of scrimmage. Especially with Mertz. We've seen now. It's kind of what I was trying to get. Of course, Napier danced around the question I asked him today about Graham Mertz playing within the offense and kind of scrapping the focus that they put on the offseason for the deep ball. He didn't really bring that up too much after I asked about it, but certainly a better performance from Graham Mertz, but still the Graham Mertz we saw last year, not really much down the field. I could see they feel comfortable Trey Wilson being closer to the line of scrimmage to help the quarterbacks out more so than him down the field where he may not get the ball in his hands anyway, because at least when Graham Mertz is out there, the pass may not be anywhere close to him.
Yeah. I think we saw the offense probably about what we expected we were going to get from the offense going into the season, with a little bit improved production out of the wide receiver. It's nothing spectacular. It is what it is. Dink and duck and run the ball. I mean, I would like to see it a little bit more, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
This is Napier's offense.
It is for better or for worse. Well, I think we know which way that leans, but
I mean, I don't expect to get the same results going forward. I really think it had a lot to do with the opponent, but
yeah,
we will see.
Hopefully you guys got a chance to listen to the SEC teleconference, though. But I did ask Napier about the running back room and the rotation, and the other backs actually kind of playing better than Montrell Johnson the last couple of games. Napier answered that. Obviously, Montrell Johnson's coming back from the injury, so we're trying to get him back into a rhythm. But yeah, I think we said that all throughout training camp and the offseason, we felt really good about the running back room. I thought in particular Saturday, Trayon played really fast and physical. Thought Jaden was exceptional. And Jacoby, you can see where he's got some wiggle. He can make you miss. Very instinctive. It's a good group. We've always been intentional about involving the running backs. Jaden Ball is a little more unique, in my opinion, as a pass catcher. He's a guy that we will definitely be building around for the future. What is that future? Does that mean future this season? Does that mean
who's future?
There's a couple ways to take the word future there, coming from Billy Napier, but at the same time, certainly I'm glad he mentioned and came back around and mentioned Jaden Ball and his pass catching potential and building an offense, with him in mind. But I mean, I put an article out on gatorsbreakdown.com today as well, just kind of showing the last couple of game difference that you see in the running back room. So I don't know what it is about Montrell. He does not look like he did in the first season. He's still a little more, maybe too patient, still a little too tap footy, dancing around too much around the line of scrimmage. When you see these other guys be more physical, you see these other guys hit the hole. To me, it's eye test right now too. You can just see it that it looks like Florida's getting more out of these other running backs.
Yeah, but I think Montrell will still. He's still going to be the number one back for Napier. Even though we all probably think the carry should be maybe split more.
Yeah.
I think he'll still get the majority of the carries.
Yeah, I don't see it changing much. Though it should.
Mm-mm. He's gonna it should, but he's gonna stick with his guy. I mean, he's been the starter for 3 years. I mean, he's not gonna he brought him from Louisiana. It is what it is once again.
Speaking of it is what it is, Dave, is it too early in the show to talk about the offensive line.
It's never too early.
To me, that's everything.
Yeah.
And I think Billy Napier's short term at the University of Florida is primarily going to be because he's someone who predicates his entire offense on the strength of his offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
And since he's been here, he's been brought in mostly 3 stars, couple 4 stars, and just has not done what he needed to do on the offensive line. And I think besides the running game, everything has kind of come apart on offense that way. This doesn't even, scratch on the issues with the defense.
Right. I think that's where these running backs are more beneficial because I think they can help out the offensive line a bit. It does seem that way to me, but it does start up there. I mean, this offense isn't going to be anywhere near where it needs to be if they don't get better play up front. Pretty good game against Mississippi State. I think we all can agree that probably more due to Mississippi State coming up. Now, UCF doesn't have doesn't have a great defense either, so maybe there's some things you could take advantage of there. For Florida's offensive line versus their defense, so maybe getting the benefit of some bad defenses coming up. But this was one game. The Samford game did not look great to me either, and they were severely more outmatched in what should have been compared to Mississippi State. And look, it does start there. Billy Napier's offense built on trying to be strong up front and then lean on the ground game, and then hit your big plays in the passing game. But starting up front, that's why we haven't seen this offense work like that. And, very little adjustment to make up for that. And as you say, boy, and look, the 4 stars that he's recruited, look, he's only been here 3 years. So, of course, they're still on the younger side for the offensive line, those 4 stars. I think Roger Kearney, of course, being in his second year, he's not getting a whole lot of playing time. One of the highest rated recruited offensive linemen there for Billy Napier. But the other guys, pretty young for being the higher rated recruited guys. So, look, and I said it almost when Billy Napier was hired. And we get to the point now where, if development is going to be your calling card, which by now we already know it's not on the offensive line. If it was going to be your calling card, this would be the season that we need to see it. And 4 games in, we know that we know that's not there either. Year one did some good things when you brought in Osiris Torrance. Anthony Richardson helped the offensive line a good bit, especially in pass blocking. Last year was a disaster. But you can say in year 3, okay, all the strength and conditioning, which we already know that was already failing. So I don't even know if you've gotten good strength and conditioning for that development piece to really matter in year 3. So you got to combine coaching development with strength and conditioning development for that particular position group. And I think that's another reason. They have failed that group at every single level.
I mean, one thing that I see looking at them, I'm watching Billy Napier bring in a bunch of big, strong, but slow guys.
Yep.
And then asking them to do quick pass blocking like the 49ers do. I mean, our offensive line, I think, is bigger than the 49ers line, but he's asking them to do similar things where they're pulling and doing whatnot. They just can't do it.
Yeah, definitely. And recruiting profiles of a lot of those guys were, they played basketball in high school and, they're very athletic. They're not athletic enough. This is a different monster in the SEC. It's a different monster going against that Miami defensive line. So as athletic as these guys were supposed to be, it is not translating. And that's kind of the MO of we're going to recruit the big athletic guys who have played multiple sports, guys that have played basketball. They got light feet. It doesn't translate onto the football field.
Yeah, their feet are so light they get pushed over every time somebody pushes. He goes up against them. Yeah, I mean,
maybe feet being light was not the best term for me to use there because that's exactly what happens.
But
Dave, I've been listening to you as well, and you're talking about Hayden Hansen getting some playing time and Tony Livingston getting more playing time. Those guys can help us pass block as well.
Yeah.
And another thing that I haven't really noticed that I noticed in the Miami game, that long run from Montrell was a pin pull. We haven't really done that since.
Yeah.
I don't understand. If we're putting these more, tight ends that are better at blocking, why are we not using more running schemes that actually work?
Hard-headed Napier, I guess.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, we're so far along in this, we have all these questions and we're just like, it's just kind of stuck in the way.
And I mean, even with the dink and duck, style of offense and passing that they want to do, I mean, Hayden Hansen has, like you said, he has some straight line speed. I mean, he's a good blocker. He's out there, he blocks, and then dink and duck for, blocking on the outside edges with a screen here or there for, Mizell to, have blocking to run that way or whatever. And then take a shot to Hayden downfield.
Yeah. And I go back to that play, the Jacoby Jackson sweep. I mean, first of all, good play call. I'm going to give you credit for a good play call there. But Mizell blocking downfield, DK blocking downfield, Hansen blocking downfield. I mean, Mizell was blocking his guy all the way into the end zone. I remember watching on the replay there, and it's just, there are things they can do, and like that play probably works against most defenses they've played so far. I don't want to chalk that one up to, it was just Mississippi State. I think that was good at every level for coaching level, play call level, and the players that were out there executing what they were supposed to do. And I thought that was a really good play. We just don't see enough of that. There's no consistency in plays like that.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think that they're seeing it in film. They have to be seeing it. I mean, if they're not, what are they looking for,
That's probably the big question. Thanks for hopping in here, guys.
One thing I was thinking about is, we're doing a lot of complaining about some of these players, whether it's on the offensive line or the safety, etc.
Yeah.
Then I look at guys like McClellan, who goes to another school.
Yep.
I'm like, I wonder if it's all the coaching, because he did not perform like that here.
Right.
So what happens if one of these guys goes to another school and becomes all world just because,
Well, I'm glad you brought that. I had that conversation on Twitter. I shared Virginia Tech's post of Antoine Powell-Ryland being the leading sacker in the country right now. And people were like, well, that's not fair because, they're in a different system. I was like, oh, you're making my point for me. If somebody else can identify or put those guys in a situation where they can succeed, it didn't happen here. And they also didn't believe it was going to happen here. Princely transferred because he didn't see a future here at Florida. ETN transferred because he didn't see a future here at Florida. Chris McClellan, who to your point, has looked really good for Missouri. And you're not going to tell me that's because he's in a different system. No, I think that's development. I think the way they're taught, a different mindset. And we've seen 3 years in a row now where this defense is not getting anything out of many players. So I'm not going to sit here and say, maybe for some of them it is a change of scenery in a different system. But no, it's more than that for most of these guys to me.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I haven't really watched too much of Ole Miss football because obviously we're all Florida fans here. But does anybody watch Ole Miss and have actually studied Princely himself and just see how much he drops in pass coverage? Because I really feel like that was one of his main issues. He didn't really want to do that, and I feel like we dropped him in coverage way too much. For him to be our best pass rusher, he should have been rushing the passer majority of the time.
Yeah,
I
don't know.
Player,
right, and I don't know. I'd be lying if I said I did. Also, Ole Miss hasn't really played anybody yet, so we'll get a better sense, I think, of what they are asking him to do, what they want to do on that side of the ball. But yeah, going to your point, I mean, but that's part of it too. Another slam on the staff is okay. Maybe if it is system, okay, that means they just didn't use him right. Use your guys to their advantage. Don't try and pigeonhole them. Don't square peg round hole. The term that gets used a whole lot in football. I mean, if that's what it was, that's still an indictment on this staff.
Right. I mean, you put your best players in this position for them to succeed, right? I mean, you always want your best men out on the field, and you play them to their strengths. I mean, just like we talk about with Graham Mertz all the time, and we all saw it. I mean, he should have easily been able to make that throw to Elijah Badger. It could have been a touchdown if he would have threw it correctly, but it was a duck ball because his strength is not throwing the ball deep downfield, and we all know it. Everyone knows it. But he wants to try to impress the fans, and so does the coaching staff. And we all know Lagway throws that better deep ball, but we can't send Lagway in every single time and say, hey, we're throwing it deep because
right.
That's what it does good, We're just telling the defensive player what we're doing.
I do it anyway.
Do it anyway. Well, we know Lagway's not going anywhere, so I mean, it doesn't matter who the next coach is. So, I mean, I'm with y'all. I think Lagway should play too, but
I wasn't too mad about the rotation last week. I mean, kind of how I might have in my head thought it would go before the season started. You know,
Yeah.
he'd probably come in. You know, he'd get 3 or 4 series a game, and I think what he ended up with like three series.
yeah, 3 or 4, yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so I mean that's about what I expected.
And I mean, Graham was playing.
Yeah, and 2 of those drives were, the 2 backed up on your own in your end zone. Those were 2 90-yard drives. That well, he's the first freshman quarterback to do that since Jalen Hurts. I think that was a stat. I think that was out there. First true freshman quarterback in the SEC to lead 2 90-plus drives. Might have been in the same game or the same. I doubt it's the same season. So maybe in the same game. I think that was a stat. So credit there, and those penalties were part of that too. But I think his first one, it was 3rd and 9, and it was a design run that he had to pick up the first down on, and then it was on from there with DJ Lagway. So yeah, you can see him getting more comfortable too. It's hard to go back against what actually turned out since Graham Mertz played a good game, but A&M and that defense was a lot to handle. I would have loved to have Lagway getting more snaps versus somebody like Mississippi State just to get more snaps. It's a game where I think it's still an SEC opponent. They are a bad SEC opponent, but still more snaps in a game where he's still getting used to the speed. He's still getting used to the game. I would have loved to see Lagway probably play a little more. Maybe later in the game, turn the page a bit. Let him take some more snaps to get to get some more snaps under his belt. But yeah, hard to be disappointed with how it played out.
Yeah. With that being said, I wonder how the rotation is going to look in the UCF game.
Yeah, I can see him probably sticking with this 3-6-9.
Yeah, that would make most sense. But one thing we know is whatever he decides, he's going to stick to it regardless. He's not going to change.
Yes, I know.
That is something it's going to be it's already been a big talking point, but when and if the page is written on Billy Napier as head coach at Florida, that's going to be one of the major contributors there of why he is no longer head coach at Florida.
Yeah, I think we'll all be tuned in for that episode, Dave. I think that's going to be probably one of your better episodes when that comes out.
I'm trying to balance it too. It's like, how much do you kind of pre-work on an episode like that? I want a lot of it to be pure raw emotion. I think that's even better. So, and part of it is too, with this one, you're building up to it. Like Jim McElwain, it kind of happened fast. Dan Mullen, it kind of happened fast. This one, you've kind of had the feeling since the Miami game that this is where it was heading. So you've had a lot more time to think about it. And so that's how this one's a little bit different compared to the last 2. I've done the podcast long enough to talk about 2 head coach firings now with Jim McElwain and Dan Mullen. So this one's following a little bit different of a path.
Yeah, every coach that we've had the past 3 coaches, like there's one game, like you said, that ends their career. There's the South Carolina game for Muschamp, and it was I'm pretty sure it was the South Carolina game for Mullen.
For McElwain, it was
the Missouri, wasn't it?
It was the Georgia game, and we started hearing it, the night before, day of, like, hey, this is gonna be his last game.
You can tell.
Yeah, and you can tell. And then for Mullen, yeah, you gotta sense that South Carolina game, but then he made the coaching changes and got rid of Hevesy, got rid of Grantham, and then played the Samford game where you gave up a ton of points, and then you went to Missouri and got beat there, and he was fired. But that was like a 2-week stretch. So, right now we're in, besides we're like 3-4 weeks of this kind of in limbo mode with Billy Napier.
And I mean, even Billy Napier, even after the Miami game, I mean, some fans still had they were like, okay, yeah, it was bad and it's been bad for a while, but we still wanted to try to give him a chance. And he just came out and laid a huge egg against Texas A&M in the first half, and everybody was like, okay, yeah, you're done. Like, there's no point in even continuing at this point. Like, this is where we're going to get. And then, we already kind of had a feeling, but it was just like, after that performance, it was like, okay, yeah, we definitely know now what we're getting. It's just not,
Yeah, because that A&M team is not that good. They're not. Yeah. They're not that final score that game good. And it was another home loss. I think that's one of the things. That's if you ask one of the top things I've been disappointed with Billy Napier. Of course, there's numerous right now, but it's just losing the swamp. We thought it could make a difference in that Miami game because it made a difference versus Utah. It made a difference versus Tennessee last year. But probably starting with that Arkansas game last year and that inexcusable loss at home. That's where he, to me, lost the swamp. The swamp has, under Billy Napier, has lost all advantage that it should have.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, nobody fears coming in here anymore. I mean,
that's the game I lost.
But it's also because our defense has been so terrible. I mean, the defense, the home field helps out defense so much bit more. I mean, it's
What, Trey? You were saying the Arkansas game?
Yeah, man. Going through all the bad losses, that Arkansas game, we had a bunch of people at the house. It's a big thing. A bunch of Florida fans from here to watch that. Since then, my attitude on Billy, the structure, everything is just completely different. That was it. And you've referenced it 3 or 4 times. I've actually talked to just some friends of mine, LSU people down here, and I've said, I was like, yeah, there's group of guys I listen to, and I was like, he always says Arkansas game, and that was it for me. When
it
that
was
happened,
Arkansas had no wins that year. I went to that game in person. That was my first game ever in the swamp, and it was that was a big thing for me too. That we were all in black and we lose, and I'm just like, dude, come on,
there's just no emotion from him, and that kills me. My thing is this, I'm a competitor, right? So most of us were younger still to this day. Go down swinging. Shoot everything you have. Pull out. Change your offense. Go 5 wide. You have good receivers with no offensive line. Let's get that. Change it up. Line up Arlen Gordingham outside. Put him in the slot. Put him in motion. Put Eugene in the backfield. Go out absolutely swinging. Instead, he just puts a dip in, smiles at the camera, and just chills. And it's dude, get out of here. That's bullshit. That's my thing. And I like Billy. I mean, Dave knows, from Lafayette, I've watched this guy, and I love him. I mean, his friends that are here still rooting for the guy and say he's just an amazing person. So it sucks. But there's just no emotion. There's just no – and his team plays like there's no emotion, right? You take the attitude of your coach. And I mean –
Exactly.
Trey, Trey, I know you brought it up before, and I asked you, since there's been so much national talk of Billy Napier and Florida not working out, how's the feeling in Lafayette from the people that knew him and all that?
It's crazy because, I mean, Desimo just lost to Tulane. Right, just now, home game. I mean, and so it's prevalent, right? I mean, they are very much and from the LSU side, I mean, I was watching the Florida game in Tiger Stadium this Saturday on my phone. That's amazing what technology can do, by the way. But I'm there, and it's some of the same thing. And I mean, they're not happy with their coach, but just from the local side of it, I mean, and I'd said it last year, this is a complete shock to the people that were close to him here, the friends that I know, the offensive coordinator of UL right now, can't believe it. I'll tell you that. It's different. The lack of development is probably the thing that I hear the most. That's what everybody says who knew him or knows the situation is. Just nobody gets better and don't understand why, and that's probably the thing that people say to me the most, that this guy evaluates talent better than anybody else. And it's just not at this level, I guess.
Yeah, unfortunate. I mean, you quarterback, you can say somewhat. Richardson is what he was. He was only here for a year. I think they have gotten more out of Graham Mertz than most people thought. Lagway, the recruiting there, that paid off. Wide receiver, I think, has been a bright spot since Billy Napier's been here. We've already talked about offensive line and that disaster. And then the whole
And
other...
I mean, that's the biggest one because
Yeah.
the two offensive line too, right? I mean, that's like,
Yeah.
we didn't mention that, but like, because we all know it. But I mean, you're paying two guys close to $2 million between the two. And I mean, one of those guys is an ex-NFL guy. One of those guys comes from, I don't even know where. But, that's the issue too. It's like when Mullen was going down with his ship and wouldn't do anything, wouldn't make these changes. I mean, a lot of these coaches got to where they are because of their hard-headedness and stubbornness, and they've pushed through and got to the other side.
Yeah.
But I mean, at this point, your worst position on the team consistently for 3 years is your best friend's position group, Chris Hill. Like, that's it. And that's as frank as it is. And like, that's a joke. You're just gonna let it happen. That is what it is.
That's the Gators Breakdown chat saying, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
I'm tired of it being what it is.
We need to change what it is. That's what we have to do.
Gotta change what the hell it is. Oh man. But
Well, I mean,
thanks
hey,
for
look,
letting me vent it out.
yeah. Well, look, I know if we had any say, I mean, granted, this is every fan base, but still, it's, we've. That's another thing about it. I think the announcement came today, and don't get me wrong, there's probably some UCF side of this, but the Swamp sold out again for the UCF game. You guys are diehard fans in here with me each and every day in the Discord, once a week on chats. I've had crazy listenership this season, based off the Miami loss and the Texas A&M loss. We're still there. The fan base is still there. The fan base, as I have said, I think most of the fan base has wanted a reason to cheer for Billy Napier. They've wanted something to latch onto, going to kind of the person that he is. I think he fits a lot of what Gator Nation is looking for just in a person. They've wanted something to cheer for, and they haven't got it in any consistent basis whatsoever. And I think that's where a lot of the frustration has come through. And I think that's why it's so toxic is the wrong word. I don't use it, but I think that's why it's so negative towards Napier right now, is because people wanted something. They wanted something to believe in, and you didn't give it to them. So now it's just a complete 180 in how a lot of the fan base feels, because it feels like you kick me over again. I have nowhere else to go now except to turn on you.
Well, I mean, he also, when he came in, and I know you've appointed to this too, like, he came in and he harped on us being patient. And I mean, we've been honestly kind of patient. I mean, here it is, year 3, and it's just like the same frustration you have. We've wanted to see something different, and it's like we keep saying the same things over and again. And it goes back to like what Will says. I mean, first play of the game, every game is a pistol run. Like, why? Why is that the first thing we start with every single time? Like, everybody knows it. Like, I get it, it's your thing, but it's like we've tried to be patient, and it's like we just keep getting the same things over and over and over again, and it's like, boy,
it gets frustrating. Lance Guidry, the Miami defensive coordinator, was my high school football coach, right? So like, it's just crazy how it's all tied. But Lance Guidry is and I mean, he's just a straight up guy, right? So when he told the media that there was the 6 play formations in that quote, like, Lance is as intense of a defensive coordinator as you're ever going to find. I mean, I followed him through McNeese whenever he was at Miami, Ohio, and like, he's going to find stuff like that. But I mean, he's not going to get the next head coaching job. Like, he's not the greatest defensive coordinator to ever walk the earth. And this guy picked it up and then called you out on it. And then he did the same thing against Texas A&M and ran some of the same run patterns and the same formations off into the same place. Like, coaches are calling him out one week, and the next week he's doubling down. So it's the same thing as the run. It's the same thing as the pistol run. It's the same thing. I mean, it's wild to watch it unfold. It's going to happen, and yet I'm still shocked when it happens. That's what's up.
Yeah.
I think we're all just hanging on, waiting, hoping for wins, but just waiting. Is this next game going to be the game that does it? When's it going to be?
Right. I mean,
I think most of us feel like it's inevitable.
Yeah, and I'll fully admit,
when.
we're all like you said, we're waiting for that moment. I had fun watching that game Saturday. I don't want Florida to lose.
Yeah.
I was still cheering. I was still clapping. I like seeing my team play well. But there's a realization at the same time. Like we know this don't mean a whole lot. If you want it to mean a whole lot, you got to go beat UCF. You got to go upset Tennessee. You got to finally beat Kentucky. Nobody's expecting you to beat Georgia. I mean, nobody should really be expecting a win at Tennessee either. But I'm just saying, if you want the narrative to change, you have a chance to do it.
We got to beat Kentucky, man. Like he's lost to Kentucky every single year.
I don't know if he'll be head coach at that point.
Yeah,
maybe not. Who knows?
I don't think he'll make it to Kentucky. If he gets past UCF, if we somehow do something, I mean,
even with a loss,
that'd be the only way. That Tennessee game is going to be.
Even with a loss, if you hang on to him versus UCF, Tennessee's going to do bad things to this Florida team.
Yeah,
it's I don't know, because if the final score is what I think it can be, I don't know how you would hang on to him if he lost to UCF and that final score of Tennessee what I think it could be. Don't get me wrong, he'd already be going in my book. You lose to UCF, you have to be going. I mean, I think when we write this page and I do that episode on Billy Napier when he's fired, it's also about you've let Miami pass us by, you've let UCF pass us by, you let Kentucky pass us by, and what have your rivals done since you've been head coach of Florida? Now, FSU has stunk this year, but they had two really good seasons the last couple of times. Georgia's winning national championships. Tennessee has gotten it figured out. I mean, if you just zoom out of Florida and the programs that mean something to Florida, you've seen progress almost at every one of them.
Yep. I mean, the divorce is coming, Dave. We're just going to have one last dance at the bar, and we're going to say our goodbyes.
Last call.
I mean, my interesting thing is like, okay, most of the Gator Nation, we want Lane. If Napier is still there, they got to come to the Swamp. I want to know what the atmosphere is like. Like with Lane and Napier being on different sidelines, like knowing that's probably going to be our next head coach and one we're getting rid of. I mean, we've already got the $26 million for his buyout.
I think they'll avoid that scenario if it goes like we all think. They'll probably get rid of him before that game and get an interim in just to save that whole situation. It could get ugly for Florida fans. Could be ugly towards Billy in a situation like that.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I would. That's one reason I think when people ask for a timeline to move on, I think that's part of it too. Like, if the losses continue to mount up, but you still want to hang on to him until maybe the end of the season or whatever, I mean, you think it's toxic now. It's just going to get worse. And that game would be as an example. I would not be surprised if there's sections in the stadium chanting Lane's name and Billy Napier's on the other sideline. So it can for sure have a weird feeling in certain situations.
Well, it would be more like, Billy, you suck. We want Lane,
For some, yeah.
Throughout the whole stadium. That's what I would envision, something like that.
Don't believe me. I mean, I heard some of the words that were hurled to him because he walked right by, us media gathering as he's heading into the tunnel after the A&M game. And believe me, there was a lot of choice words being said towards Billy Napier.
Since we're on this topic, you said something earlier that Billy Napier said about the future, and then you go back to the presser last week when he was asked if there's a chance for a fourth season. That he said what he said. Do you really think that he thinks that there's a way that he can save his job, or is this just crowd control at this point?
I mean, I think he thinks that as if if he can turn it, because he believes he can turn it around. Like, I think he knows he has to turn the season around. And whether he truly believes it or not, I don't know. I mean, as a head coach, even as bad as it gets, I hope you believe you can. From the outside, I don't think we see that happening. But from his perspective, I hope he has the mindset, I can turn this around. And if I turn this around, I will be head coach next year.
But also, head coach, you know what your team is.
Yeah, so, true. Yeah. Or you should. But at the same time,
Yeah, you should.
It,
you should know, especially by now.
Yeah, I don't. And maybe going deeper in that with Jay Collins, I don't know. I don't think Billy's been told, "Hey, look, you're safe right now." I don't know what the conversation has been, if there has been much of a conversation on job status, but I don't think there's been any type of Scott Strickland coming to him and saying, "Hey, no matter what, you're safe." I don't believe that right now. So I do think he is walking on very, very, very thin ice.
Dave, going back to the point that Collins just pointed out, where he was talking about how Napier was talking about how he said it in his presser. I just don't remember exactly the words, but he was basically making changes. He was going to make changes on defense. Who do you think he's going to try to play to try to maybe make those changes? Or
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think he was pretty much pointing out maybe we need to look at who we're playing. And up front, I'd say more Caleb Banks, more Sapp. And I do think Des Watson is better when those guys are out there. Not necessarily when he's surrounded by the better people. I think he's better as well. Cam Jackson in that mix too. Up front, I think it's those guys. At linebacker, it needs to be a lot of Shamar James and a lot of Pup Howard. As many snaps as they can play, they need to be on the field. If I had to pick out a particular player, I don't know if he was singling out any particular player or anything, but DJ Douglas comes to mind first. Of some of the issues that we have seen in coverage, some of the issues we've seen in tackling, maybe even in Jordan Castell. He has not taken the steps that he needed to take after what we saw last year. He should be a much better player from what we saw last year to this second year. We should be talking about Jordan Castell in a lot more positive manner, and we are not. He has taken a huge step back. And for the secondary as a whole, I mean, I'm only looking at Jason Marshall and Chalkwez Bridges and Sharif Denson to a point as well. But guys, I'll say for Marshall, a guy who was under the last Corey Raymond for the last couple of years, and you wondered if he had it or not. And I do think that's where Will Harris has probably made his biggest contribution, is making Jason Marshall a better player. That's not to say he's the only, good player back there, but I just think given where he was at and the questions surrounding him, where's the impact being made in the secondary? That's the biggest impact, is making sure, Jason Marshall is playing his best ball, and he is. And that means that he's a pretty good player out there. As for secondary, to me, it means, as much Sharif Denson as you can get when Aaron Gates comes back as well. I think those two guys deserve a lot more snaps. Bridges as well, over DJ Douglas, over Jordan Castell. You've got to find a way to get Bridges on the field more. Hopefully they get healthy in this bye week as well, and can put a lot more rotation back there, and put more guys that they have confidence in.
Yeah, it's about time to try Greg Smith out.
Yep, Greg Smith is another young guy that I know that I've heard some good things about.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, at this point, I would take Sharif Denson, Aaron Gates, Bridges, and Marshall on the field at the same time.
Yeah, find a way to work them in together.
Yeah, for sure.
I still don't know. I haven't been able
Denson.
to. I'll reach out. I'll see if I can get more on Asa Turner and what maybe his prognosis is. I'd hate to give up on that guy after the Miami game. That Miami game was bad. Don't get me wrong, especially with just one particular play. Maybe he can still be somewhat of a contributor we thought he could be.
I'm glad you just said that, because I was just about to ask you. I was like, I know he didn't play stellar, but have we heard anything about Asa at all? So that's kind of cool that you actually you read my mind there, Dave.
I may have to give it a couple of days with the storm. I don't want to. I'm not that guy. Hey, there's a storm coming. Can you tell me about this player?
Yeah.
So I will wait a couple of days. Hopefully, I won't forget in the meantime.
You may realize playing against the SEC will hurt his draft status now after that first time.
Hopefully not.
Yeah. And also, not saying this is the case, but with Marshall, maybe he's playing a little harder this year, being his last year, his NFL year. Maybe he kind of
Brian,
took it easy a little bit
oh,
in the past, just getting on a bad defense. I mean, I could just see team players giving up certain. I mean, just you're on a bad team, bad defense.
maybe, but
I don't know. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just throwing it out there.
I could see that, but the only reason I'll fight back on that a little bit is last year was his junior year and was supposed to be his big year, but it was disappointing. So
you're right.
That last year was technically his money year. Now he just gets another money year because he stunk last year. So thankfully he's making better on it this year. But I would have thought whatever effort he's putting forth this year, I'd assume he put forward toward last year as well. And Corey Raymond's just not that guy. I mean, look, the LSU secondary still stinks right now. They made massive changes on that defense, and their secondary is their weakest point of their defense. So I think I'm pretty safe to assume Corey Raymond just doesn't have it anymore.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Right about that.
So he got one thing right. He got rid of Raymond.
Yeah. I mean, because if I'm not mistaken, like their pass defense, let me see. The beauty of live production here.
And Blake Baker's a pretty good defensive coordinator too.
Yeah, he really is. Let's see. Passing yards allowed. That's the worst stat to go on right now, but it's a generic stat to get us started here. And we'll go straight to page 3. I don't know if LSU is that bad. Okay, LSU or Florida is not that bad as far as passing yards go. But LSU is 96th, and Florida is 92nd. It's crazy, guys.
All right.
It's crazy because and it's been the case since 2020 for both teams. Both programs, along with Ohio State, could claim DBU for the longest time. And Florida and LSU have been putrid on defense. And most of it pass defense.
That's where having a pass rush just really helps out the DBs. I mean, it's night and day. When quarterback's got all day, and you can't ask them DBs to stay out there and cover wide receivers, for more than a couple seconds.
Let's see. There was another stat I wanted to look up. It was the explosives. Opponent long passing plays. Here we go. I know Florida was dead last in the SEC. Opponent long passing plays. Here we go. Yeah. So LSU has given up the most 10-yard plus passes. Florida is 12th. LSU's given up 43 passes of 10 plus yards. If we go to 20th, 20 plus yards, Florida's dead last with 20. LSU is next to last with 14.
Whatever.
30 plus.
The Raymond effect.
Yeah, 30 plus. LSU's given up 5. That's good for 12th in the conference. Tied with 3 other teams. Florida is tied with Kentucky for dead last with 6. In 30 plus yard passing plays. But Florida's not as bad in 40 plus yards. So Florida's got a cutoff right there at 30 plus yards because Florida's 10th in the SEC in 40 plus yards, only giving up 2. But it just lets you know.
Question, Dave. Since we're talking about the defense real quick.
Yep.
Do we think Ron Roberts, given his history at Auburn, kind of not getting along with people, kind of being his way or the highway, and among other things that we don't even have to talk about, you think that's kind of happening here, and maybe it's just not working together? The staff isn't clicking, and therefore the players aren't really. Maybe they don't like him as much. I've heard stories about what happened in Auburn, or rumors. Like I've got a buddy who played football in Auburn, so I don't know. Most of it's just rumors, but his he's had issues, and just to say he's hard to get along with and hard to work with, or kind of not painting the whole picture of what I've been told. But like I said, I'm just wondering if maybe that we're having that same problem here.
I mean, I certainly think that is a part of it. I do. I've heard a lot of the same stuff. Like coaching wise, that's not why Auburn got rid of him. It was his attitude, his personality, the way he interacted with other people. They didn't want him around their program anymore. I was like, okay, well, maybe, hopefully, he's coming to a staff that he knows. Coming to, and Billy Napier doesn't rub people that way. So maybe getting back with Billy Napier, getting back with Austin Armstrong, getting back with a lot of the staff that he knows, maybe he won't be that way here. Unfortunately, I think that's about the same person we got. And I can see where it would be hard as a player, 17, 18, 19-year-old kid that, especially in today's college football, you're not going to put up with it. I mean, you're just not going to play
for a guy.
Yeah, there's a difference in being
you don't like.
Right, there's a difference in being a hard ass and not showing respect.
Exactly. And it's mutual. I mean, it goes both ways. So as a player, you're not going to go out there and give every bit of effort to this guy who you don't really like and don't really get along with.
I still say most players want to be pushed that way. They want to be pushed in a manner that's going to test their limits. I don't think that's what's happening here.
I think it's more of like a belittling. Like he doesn't. It's like if you don't make a play, you suck. It's not. How can we make you understand to get? And you don't coach him up. He coaches them down. If you get what I'm saying.
I don't know enough in that manner. I mean, I think you can certainly see where it's not working. But given the reputation and things we have heard recently, yeah. What's up, Dave? I see your circle moving, but I don't hear your voice. Anyway, it's David Circus' birthday, but for his birthday, he can't talk.
Happy birthday! 40. On a Saturday. I'm glad we got a win for it.
Sorry, I was brushing my teeth. Thanks, guys.
Oh, there you go.
Oh yeah.
Brushing your teeth at 7:50 at night.
Yeah, way to do it, man.
I'm assuming you gotta hop on high top, so gotta get those pearly whites.
White's good.
Yeah.
That's that post dinner brush right there.
That look good for the camera, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Got the fresh cut too, huh?
Dave, you're in town for the UCF game, right?
Yeah, I'll be down there.
Okay, so I thought.
I'm riding with Alan down there.
Oh, okay.
He lives 15 miles from where I live now.
Yeah, I knew y'all weren't too far from each other.
This is probably a dumb question, but there's supposed to be a big hurricane down in Florida this weekend, correct?
Yes, tomorrow.
Okay, so I'm from Tennessee, so I'm not really familiar with the Florida geographic. When I think of hurricanes, I think back in what was it, 2016 in the McElwain area with the LSU debacle. No chance happens with the UCF game, correct?
Oh no! That would be a completely another storm if that happens. This one is just the next few days only, or a couple of days only.
Unfortunately, we can't dodge this one.
No.
I was kind of crossing my fingers and hoping, but
I live in North Georgia. We're supposed to get tropical storm force winds up here.
Yeah, they say Atlanta's probably going to. Yeah, they're going to see some stuff they haven't seen in quite a while to do with a storm like this.
Yeah, it's also going to get up there and sit on Atlanta for a little while, I think.
Tennessee area too. Rain. Yeah.
Here in South Carolina, we're expected 8 to 10 inches of rain.
Yeah, I've heard the Appalachians are kind of worried about.
Yeah, it's crazy up here.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully it goes over Athens too.
Well, that was the worry because
Oh.
Georgia's playing in Tuscaloosa, so there was some concern earlier in the week that the hurricane may move Georgia-Bama, but that's been the storm should be clear of Tuscaloosa on Saturday.
Yeah, they might get some rain.
Yeah,
Make the game more interesting.
that's gonna be. I'm kind of glad Florida's got a bye week on the weekend of that game. I want to be full focus on that one. I think UCF and Colorado play at the same time, so certainly 2 games I think we should all be focused on, or should want to be focused on. Yeah, after a road game last week and the bye week this week, getting a lot of college football in. I don't normally get in with home games.
I don't care who wins the Alabama game. I just hope they both lose.
I hope it's a good game.
Yeah, bring it up here.
Yeah, I want a good game, but I want Bama to win. I mean, if it's a
I don't know if they're going to pull it off.
If it's a blowout, if it's a blowout either way, I definitely want it to be Bama.
I mean, I hate Georgia just as much as any other Florida fan, but I hate Alabama more. So,
Question
I live in Alabama, I'm from Alabama, and I work with a lot of people that live in Alabama, and I get tired of hearing Roll Tide.
I don't blame you.
It's annoying. It is annoying. And if you ever
family's Alabama fans,
who has the most national championships? I don't care.
Michigan.
Who has the most made up? Who has the most made up national champions?
Yeah, that's probably Alabama.
What's up, Jay Collins? Yeah, you had a question.
Question about the Tennessee game. I know it's a long shot we win, but me being from Tennessee, you don't understand how hard it is for me to go out, and hear all this crap the way they've been playing. But do you think our chances are slighter better going into the game 3-2 versus going into the game 2-3?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you beat UCF. I think it does give you some confidence. And let's not forget. Now, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I'm picking Tennessee, and there's no way I'm not picking Tennessee right now. But history is on our side. They have they've had the better team many times when Florida's matched up with the Vols, and for whatever reason, they step on their own feet. They can't get out of their own way. I wouldn't expect that to happen, but of course, didn't expect it to happen at those times either. It's certainly nothing to bank on. It's certainly nothing to go to Vegas with. But let's not forget, I think it could be in the back of your mind that Tennessee steps on their foot a whole lot when that orange and blue rolls into their stadium.
Yeah. I got this feeling we get run out of Neyland.
Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, I'm afraid we are. I mean, that Oklahoma game last week, that was pretty impressive. Now, Oklahoma's offense is terrible.
Yeah.
But still, going on the road against that defense and that environment and just pretty much dominating.
And I think as that game played on too, Tennessee knew that Oklahoma's offense wasn't going to do much.
Yeah.
So I think they started playing within the game a little bit. Don't get me wrong, Oklahoma's got a good defense too. So I don't want to shy away their defense. They have a pretty good defense too. But that Tennessee team, you guys already know I was pretty high on Tennessee, but they're even that defense is even better than I thought they'd be.
Yeah, they are a different playoff contender. I mean, they're a title
For sure.
contender. I could see them in the Final Four. I mean, with Georgia and Ohio State or whatever, Texas, who knows? Yeah, there you go. That could be the 4 right there.
Now, part of it is, NC State is nowhere near as good as they were supposed to be. So
yeah.
And
some people have Tennessee the number 1 team in the nation right now.
Yeah, I've seen the talk. I don't know. I don't know if I'd have them that high. I'm high on them. I mean, I think they should definitely be top 5, top 6. But
we'll see.
They still got to, and they'll have their chance. But they still got to beat before I put them up there. They got to beat somebody of note first.
They still got Bama and Georgia, right?
Yeah, they still got Bama and Georgia.
Yeah. They got to beat Bama. I mean, I'm with you, Dave. I think Oklahoma's defense was really good. I think that was really their first true test. Of course, unfortunately, Oklahoma's offense isn't that great.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I really feel like if their offense was a little better, they would have had a little bit more success in that game. I feel like that game would have been a lot closer score wise than it was. But
yeah, they have Arkansas. They have a bye week this week as well. Dang. Yep. And then they have Arkansas, Florida, Bama. So Florida and Bama back to back.
Cupcake for Bama.
and then they play Kentucky. They have Florida and Tennessee share bye weeks this year because they have a bye week before they play Kentucky, the week before we play Georgia, and then they play Mississippi State and Georgia. So they play the Bulldogs back to back. Then they play UTEP and Vandy at the end of the season. So
that's not.
I want that schedule.
I mean,
yeah,
that's only a couple losses.
It breaks out pretty good for them. I mean, Florida being down, so they get Florida the week before Bama, and then they have Mississippi State week before they play Georgia. So they've got two of the SEC's worst teams against a week before their hardest opponents.
Where's the Bama game at?
The Bama game is in Neyland, so they have Florida at home. Bama at
they
home.
might beat Bama this year.
I don't think so. I think Bama's way better than Tennessee.
Well, they beat them last time they were there. They had
they had a senior there. They had Tendon Hooker. I mean, he was very good. Nico's good too, but he's still a freshman. I mean,
this is a Saban-less Bama though. This is Bama without Saban. So
I was just about to say this is different without Saban.
And we'll see Bama against Georgia this way. That's going to tell us a whole lot more. Because I'm a big fan of Tennessee's defense, and I mean it might be asinine to say they're Georgia level defense, but they might be this year.
They look like it. They were flying around.
Yeah. All right, guys. Anything else?
Hurry, we got to say something else about the Gators. We're talking too good about Tennessee.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, y'all getting my blood pressure up talking about Tennessee.
One thing I was going to bring up, Dave.
Yeah.
Have you been? I know you've been paying attention to it, but it's not just Matt Berry, but all of ESPN college football trying to rehabilitate Dan Mullen's reputation.
Oh man.
Oh God.
Yeah, you can definitely tell that, especially Matt Berry, because him and Mullen are together a lot. So there's no telling what he's filled his head with. And it seems like every chance he gets to hit Florida, it's to pump up Mullen at the same time, kind of with the paraphrasing of "you got rid of that to get this." Speaking of Mullen and Napier, but yeah, Kirk Herbstreit last week on Game Day 2 say, "What did Dan Mullen do so bad?" I mean, it lets you know from a national narrative they don't really get in tune with the teams like we do. Now there's some Gator fans too that beat the Dan Mullen drum. And that's not to say he didn't have some success here. Nobody's ever said Dan Mullen never had success at Florida. We just had no belief in the direction, and that's where he failed, and that was it. And some people think it was too fast because it was quote unquote one bad season. Sorry, in a lot of ways, 2020 was a bad season. That team should have been much better than it was. You fell on your face at the end of the season. You didn't treat the end of that season with any kind of respect for Gator Nation or the team. And then 2021 was terrible. So don't get me wrong. There were a lot of. It wasn't just a bad 2021. Like we knew the direction this program was headed. We knew the direction recruiting was headed. And boy, yeah, they're not in tune with it like we are. And maybe we get too deep into the weeds sometimes, but I don't think we get too deep in the weeds with Dan Mullen.
Well, go ahead.
They should have some Gator fans on there. Give a butt.
Yeah.
Man, 2021, he just literally quit. I mean, it was bad.
And there's plenty of Gator guys on there, but like Jesse Palmer, I don't think he's not connected to it anymore. I don't think he cares about Florida the way an alum fan would. Tebow, of course, he's close to Mullen, so I know you're not going to get a whole lot of truth out of that on the national level either. You'll never hear Tim Tebow say, "Yeah, I think Dan Mullen quit in 2021," even though that's what we know happened in a lot of ways.
Well, if we get Kiffin, he'll just snap back at Mullen.
And that's what we need.
Or he can think Dan Mullen.
Backwards.
Yeah. Or we can think Dan Mullen and be like, "Well, you try to get them to give me the job last time."
Imagine Kiffin talking crap about UT as a Gator coach.
Yeah.
That'd be crazy.
Yeah, Florida-Tennessee rivalry would certainly be ratcheted up even more if Kevin was to come to Gainesville.
That's We'll be getting our popcorn ready.
Man, I
think
think
that's what
Lane
Kiffin
versus
wants,
Kirby,
too.
when both teams are good, would be awesome.
Hell, I mean,
Personally.
I'm not gonna lie. Like I said, there's a lot to like about them. I liked Mullen versus Kirby. I mean, there was some,
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, that was good. There was some fun in there.
Until his lack of recruiting caught up with him.
Yeah.
Exactly. For Mullen, it was the Darth Vader Missouri game. That was kind of like, okay, this guy is not serious. For me, I was like, I could see just that season
Yeah.
and that is just, this ain't gonna work.
And granted, like, okay, I got it. You had it planned before the game, but there was a fight. It was just
Exactly. I
it was
mean,
just a weird feeling.
read the room.
Yeah.
I mean, we won the game. Everybody it was cool then at Halloween, all of that. But hindsight, you look at it and it's like, man, come on.
And I like and I like Darth Vader.
Yeah, huge Star Wars fan. Just not the right time.
And then the Todd Grantham thing. You remember when they were hollering at each other and
Oh yeah.
they said they were talking about Christmas lights or something. Yeah, y'all remember that?
Yep. I do remember that now.
And then the shoe throw. And
Yeah, the shoe throw hurt.
It was still one of my most dumbfounded moments. Like leaving the stadium that night, I won't ever forget it. I mean, granted, it was COVID, so it was kind of weird. But you had the fog over the stadium and losing a game you really shouldn't have lost. Like that was, in a down in the dumps kind of lost there, and just astonished that it happened.
Wilson brothers, man, let me tell you. One was talking about a duck pulling a truck, and we lose that game. And one throws a shoe, we lose that game. Go figure.
When he made that comment about the duck, and when oh my God, I thought I was going to get killed.
I miss Marco and Tease though, man. Those guys or Quincy and Tease. Those guys were good.
Yeah.
Reminded you of the good old Joe Hayden days.
All right, guys. Good chat.
Sure.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, I
Thanks,
will.
Dave.
I'll probably since it's a bye week episode, I might tease it a little bit more and put it out there for the masses this week, so they kind of get a feel for what we do here during the season. Update for this week, probably last episode of the week. I got a Q&A episode coming, but I'm going to have Neil Blackman join me to answer some of those questions as well. I know he's been around, Saturday Down South podcast and stuff, and has some good info on the kind of the coaching situation Florida finds themselves in right now. So thought it'd be a good idea to have Neil on. So I think I'm going to have that out on Sunday. And then I have a speaking engagement next Tuesday night. That's when Will and I were going to record because he has something on Monday. So I don't know what's going to happen there. So I'm going to try and figure out an episode with Will. And then, of course, a UCF preview next week as well. So busy next week. But if you guys are around the St. Augustine area, I'll be doing a speaking engagement in St. Augustine next Tuesday night.
That'll be cool to get Neil in there because Neil's really good. He's a lot like Bill Sykes and Will Miles. He's very, very, very intelligent and knowledgeable about the program.
Yeah, Neil's good people.
Are you going to talk any basketball with Will?
Boy, if you want me to, I will. I'll try to end the episode with it. It will ruin my all football all the time, but I'll do it for you.
I tell you, Neil and Eric are fantastic with UF basketball.
Absolutely.
Yes, they are. I agree.
I definitely listen to those two guys. That's a special treat Gator Nation has with those two guys covering basketball.
Yes, for sure.
Because don't get me wrong, they know the sport. Like it is ridiculous. Like they know the program, they got connections, but they really know the sport. That's why to me it's really a unique take on Gator basketball.
I'm surprised Fawcett hasn't got hired to like somebody's staff at some point because he's really smart.
And don't forget, what is this kid's name? Olivier Rioux, 7'9".
Yeah, 7'9".
Oh yeah,
I can't wait to see that.
I did see Todd Golden say that probably don't expect too much out of him this year, but certainly will be hard to miss. A developmental guy, probably given his size and where he comes from, got to getting used to this style of basketball. But certainly hope a player you see down the road.
Yeah, it
I
doesn't
want
have
to
to
see.
jump right.
I want to see David Soderquist interview him visually.
make David like a midget.
That would be
Hey,
fun.
if y'all are in the path of this storm, y'all be safe.
Yeah, everybody, y'all be safe out there too, for real. Take all the warnings serious, believe me. So,
Yep.
All right, guys.
Go Gators.
Go Gators.
Go Y'all be
Gators.
safe.
Hey,
Dave.
make sure you use a storm protector so your PlayStation doesn't get flooded.
I will. All right, guys.
Go Gators, fellas.
Go Gators, man. Go Gators.
Go Gators.